Well, welcome to Shays Spiritual Insights. It's so wonderful to have everyone here. And the only thing I have to share, and just really want to have this to be, as time goes on, to have this an open forum to be whatever we want to talk about, and everyone can certainly, if they have a perspective and just share that perspective. But we're moving into Easter, and Easter is about the ascension. And that's such a powerful thing. And the energies of ascension, I'm feeling them. Um, Certainly there for the people that are on the spiritual path and that are focused the way we are. And I don't know what impact it's going to have for each of us, but I just thought I would mention it. So with that, let us open it up. And Susan, what do you have to share? What's happening with you?
Well, I know the word tribe is kind of overworked, but I'm feeling I'm not with my tribe. And it feels pretty isolated at times here. Yeah, it's been a long winter, and now that we can't be there again since the last time, so um, who knows when we'll get back. I'm hoping it's soon.
Aren't they supposed to have the restrictions removed here in May or something?
Well, they're saying May, but they keep moving it forward. So
Oh, okay.
we're just going with it and not getting overly frustrated. We know that our place is being looked after. But this morning, it was quite interesting. I watched a Zoom presentation with the Quantum Touch, Tyler Odysseus. I love that guy. Anyway, we went into an altered state where we actually met a tribe, whether it was on the other side or here, looking at people that we might be encountering, who would be new relationships and new friends, which was quite interesting. There were faces there that I didn't know, so obviously that has to be in the coming times. I feel very encouraged by that, because it just feels like sometimes I'm not anywhere.
Yeah, but you found it's something that really you connected with? Did you really feel it very much in that way?
Yeah, I hope I did.
Feels
I
like it did for you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
okay, that's good for that feedback, because I could see faces, and there were some new faces, and then the one in particular showed up as a really strong relationship. But it was about newness, which I'm feeling right now, that is really important. Important. I'm asking for that.
Yeah.
What the new stuff.
Yeah, and it looks like you have an opening for that to happen, at least one of the openings. It could be obviously more for you, but it did feel like that you did have that connection. So that's a good thing. And you felt it obviously as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know, whatever advice my guides might have for me as far as what's going on here. I'm still hanging in here on the planet because there's still something for me to do. I'm not sure what it is.
Well, they like the fact that you're exploring new things because they have for you to do that.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yes, and you are doing that. And I think we're all supposed to be doing that. That's one of the things that Deborah and I have been talking about, is that we're feeling like it's time. Certain things are falling away, which, inevitably happens in our lives, and new things come in and we are to seek them. And sometimes it's the things that we want new things, yet we kind of sometimes, and I'll speak for ourselves, but we kind of want to do the same thing but make it new, and sometimes the new thing truly is something new,
Yeah.
and it feels odd and strange, and so that's a good thing. Explore it, and they're happy with your doing that. So that, and they want you to continue doing it, and that's all I'm getting from them, unless someone else has something to share.
Okay. I'm just, sometimes I did Reiki over again a couple of weeks ago. I felt like it was important for me. The connection was more important than the whole day. But at the end of the day, I thought, well, so where do I go from here?
Yes, yes, and you're certainly. I think you're opening yourself up to things that can start moving into your life, and where
Okay.
they go from here, it's going to go. My sense is it may not go quite the speed that we always want it to go,
Yeah.
but it's coming in. And then
Okay.
that as you continue to seek it and pursue it, I'm going to say seek it and pursue it, things can open up for you. Some things will probably, in some relationships, will be fine, and others will be, kind of more muted. But
Yeah.
they're really being quiet about it. They're happy that you're doing it, but they're not telling me much more. Which, unless someone else is getting something, that's all they're telling me. Um,
So,
I,
it's a surprise.
Yeah, well, when guides do that, there's always something up. That's been my experience. There's something up, and it's for us to find it ourselves. They don't want to tell us about it, because if they tell us, it kind of short circuits the very thing we're supposed to be doing.
Well,
So,
we set up expectations too, in
yes,
that regard. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I just find it fascinating. My guides do that to me quite often, and I was like, "Oh, I know you know more, but you're not going to tell me, are you?" And so, and I just thought, okay, I know it's for my highest good, so I'll live with it. So,
Okay. Thank
hmm,
you.
thank you. All right, I'm going to go across the screen the way it is on my screen. Paula, do you have anything to share? Anything you want to talk about? Any questions you want to ask? Anything at all?
Well, I don't really have any questions. It's so good to see Susan Joy.
It is.
Thank you,
Can't wait
Paula.
here to hug. Um, as I was listening, I just kept hearing, I'm I'm just my guides are happy. I'm happy. I'm just living in the moment each day without an expectation.
Hmm.
And it just feels wonderful. I really just feel blessed right now.
Yes. And I don't know what this time is. This is one of those that I've seen before and I think the collective is in this, and I sense probably many of us are in this. We're kind of, again, the older, not all of it, but some of it's falling away. Elements of certain things we do are going to fall away, and other pieces are going to stay. And then it's for us to just, I don't know, follow that path that we're on and see what we find. And that sounds like what you're doing. And as long as our heart is open, wonderful things can happen for us. I really, truly believe that. And so I'm happy for you.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. Yeah. I didn't come in tonight with even so much as a thought other than just I feel so blessed. And even the energetics have let loose and of the world and everything going on. I just chuckle at how some people get so worked up in all of this. And it's like, wow, they're really missing the big picture of just embracing each day.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I remember, and again, I'm going to quote June, who knew, almost nobody here knew, but except for me. But long ago, she used to say, when we're following our spiritual life, it's good that we need to be aware of things, but we don't need to be. She said, don't listen to the news. Don't get involved with it. Just let yourself be guided. If you need to know something, your higher guidance will tell you, or someone will say, hey, did you hear about such and such? And you'll say, oh, that's interesting. And now you know about it. And if you need to know more, you'll be guided to find out more. But otherwise, we're not to get caught up in other people's stuff. That's pretty much a Buddhist, don't get wound up in other people's karma, and not even the collective karma. We're not to be doing that. As we're anchoring the light in, that's the highest thing that we can do for all of us. And sounds like that's clearly what we are doing. So thank you for sharing that and reminding me not to let myself get caught up in that either, because I tend not to, but people want to involve me in it. At work, they're like, did you hear about such and such? And I was like, no, but hey, how's your day going? Change the subject.
Yeah.
How's your day
Right.
going? Yeah, tell me about your day. Tell me about your dog.
Yeah.
Anything. So,
Well, I'm going to just enjoy listening.
oh, well, thank you, Paula. All
Yeah,
right.
thanks for that, Paula.
Yes. And I know I've said this before, Susan, I just love your name. It's the perfect name because it fits you, Susan Joy, and it's just a joy.
Thank you. I know it does. After having a numerology name for so many years that my mother gave me and taken back my birth name, It's my name and I'm owning it.
That's right. And it's you. That's right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, anyway, you're a blessing to me and a blessing to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
As we all are to each other.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Pat, do you have anything to share? Any questions to ask? Anything at all? What do you want to talk about?
Well, I have to say that I am a little bit in an interesting space right now. I was on the crystal mat for a couple hours this afternoon until 5:30, and when I came up and out, because I was just like, whoa, where was I? What was I doing? And I don't know. But I do know that I feel as though at night, probably all of us are really doing a lot of helping with the changes that are occurring to bring the light and the spirit in. And like this little treat I had for myself this afternoon where I was so far out there, I feel like my divine self was really, really working on my essence, or whatever you'd want to call it.
Well, it's true that we do a lot of work at night at many levels of our being, not just one. It's not like one thing we're doing. We're doing the different levels and different aspects of our being are doing all kinds of work. Which is equally, if not more important sometimes than what we're doing in our waking life. So Dolores Cannon talks a lot about that for people who feel like they have on the outside, if you looked at their lives, it looked like they have pretty mundane, sometimes very boring lives. But at the spiritual level and the inner work that they're doing is crucial to the planet and the soul group. So you cannot really know, I don't think we can consciously know all that we're doing, partially because we're just not connected with it. And part of it, I really truly believe it isn't for us to consciously know. This is just another part of our work. And when we need to know about it, we will. But until then, it's kind of behind the scenes, even for us.
Yeah. And I wake up a lot, like in the middle of the night, and I get up to go to the restroom, come back. And like last night, it was probably at least 2 hours I was awake. I wasn't looking, but I couldn't even use my normal route to get back to sleep. And then I've been taking a class with a shaman too. And that I know that that's expanding both John and I a lot,
Mm-hmm.
And then helping him through his pain. He's been having a really hard time. So that wears on you, whether you think it does or doesn't.
Oh, absolutely. It's true. It does. And it's good that, you're working with him, and you're both, you said, working with a shaman. So how's that going?
Wonderful.
Wow.
It's just, and it's not the first time. When we did the Munich-key, we weren't really working with a shaman per se, a certified shaman, but she was up there. And so this guy he's the most gentle, loving, kind human being. And when he takes you on these journeys, you're just, whoa, and throwing away what you don't need into the fire and all of that kind of stuff. It's just very joyful. It's really joyful. It doesn't have to be heavy. And he reminds us of those kind of things. Like some people get into stuff and they think it's got to be really heavy. No, it should feel good when you throw that old cloak into the fire, get that aura new and sparkly.
And glowing and all that.
Yeah,
Yes.
glowy. So thank you, everybody, for being here.
Well, thank you. All right, Lisa, what do you have to share? Any questions to ask anybody? What do you want to talk about? Anything at all?
Well, I will just share a little bit. I wasn't here last month because after the session I had with you and Deborah, I was pretty unable to function for about a week. So that put me in a really big growth period. And then, of course, stuff just kept going up to the point of Heaven's Cross, which was March 22nd. And it was interesting because that morning, I just felt like this whole peace come over me, this soft, quiet energy. and it just felt like kind of like a cork had been released and all this stuff just moved, because up to that point it was just this really intense pressure in my body, and then it's kind of like it released. And then since then I've had more and more energy coming in, or that's the experience of it. I know everything's within me, but that's what it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the intensity kind of revved up again this week. Lots of intense heat in my body. Haven't been sleeping. I had one night where I was just laying in bed awake, and my closet doors shook 3 times.
Wow.
And I was like, it wasn't the knocking, because at one time I had that knocking and I got hit with all that energy.
Mm-hmm.
It was just quiet, but there was this shaking, and I was like, is there an earthquake happening or something? Because I couldn't recreate that sound. It literally felt like something was shaking. But not sure what that was. I just scheduled to do my first sound healing next Friday, group sound healing.
Wow. Okay.
So I've already got people signing up, and it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And then I might have an opportunity, this is interesting, to clear one of the buildings down on the reservation.
Well,
One
that'd
of
be
my
good.
Yeah, one of my clients' friends that I work with quite often, I guess I didn't even know, she'd been talking to her boss about getting the building cleared. It's 4,000 square feet. And then she says, well, I've been talking to him and we're going to put in a bid. So how much do you charge? And then when she told me how big it was, I was like, oh my gosh. And then there is actually a graveyard right by there. I mean,
Wow.
when she was just talking about it, I could just feel all the energy in that whole area. Because on the other side of the road, they do the powwows. And then on the side where the buildings, there's one big kind of almost like government type building. It's several stories. But yeah, I was kind of feeling, I talked to Pat about a little bit, but if I get the opportunity, maybe I could help clear that whole area.
Well, it certainly needs it. I would agree with you. There's a
Yeah.
lot there. You're already sensing what's there, and you have your job cut out for you on that. But it will certainly be for everyone's best benefit. I mean, it just for all, and for especially for the purposes that they want to be able to have that, be there. It would be really wonderful if you did that. And if you do get it, you will be prepared. They will prepare you, they being your higher guidance, and some other new people, new beings that you probably haven't met yet, because they're going to come in for that purpose to help you do this. And I can confirm that your awareness is continuing to expand out. It was doing it before the session, but because you really sought to have that, boy, it's really accelerated. So I can confirm that things are certainly happening. And wow, I mean, you've got sounds like all kinds of wonderful things are happening. But yeah, that building and the surrounding area needs that clearing. I mean, I think you already know that it really needs it.
There was a really intense fire. I don't remember if it was last summer or the summer before,
Mm-hmm.
that burnt a lot of that area and
Mm-hmm.
up to some people's houses and stuff. And it was pretty intense. And I knew that fire was coming in to clear that energy. And so
Yes.
I'll actually want to talk to Brook about it if it does come about, because he worked there for quite a while and knows the land. But I was like, wow, if I could get the opportunity, because all I need is permission. If they give me permission, I could clear that whole valley, that whole area.
Yeah, I think they're going to have you, if you get it, the higher guidance will have you do an initial piece, and then it will probably be thereafter at some later point. You may want to mention that, come in again. I think that's what the universe and the higher divine has for it to do it. It looks like to me, at least right as it stands at this snapshot in time, kind of a two-phase thing, because there's some immediate energies that really need to get cleared and they need to resettle, and the proper energy patterns need to get established before you move on to the next piece. It looks like for it.
Yeah, I told them I'd have to come out for 3 visits. That's what it felt like.
Yeah, it very well could be. That sounds good. I know at least 2, and 3 probably, and maybe even more. So, wow.
Yeah, and I was getting once a month after that for about 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
Oh,
It really does need some work, and you'll know more after you, as this unfolds, you're going to know more. It'll be revealed. And that's probably another reason why things are expanding out, is preparing you for the opportunities that are coming up. And it'll be an opportunity and a gift for you in your own life, but it'll be a real blessing for them as well, because the land, the building, the whole area needs this. There's old energies that their time has come to be released into the light, and for the new light to come in, and the higher vibrations to be present in that building and on the land. So
yeah, and there's so many spirits, and
yes.
they all experience them all the time. I said, don't you guys have like a shaman that's head of the tribe that could come in? And they're like, no. I'm like, what? How is that possible?
Yeah, I don't want to bring it in, but there's dozens and dozens and dozens of them there. Lots and lots of them. And they've just been there. And anyway, we talk more about it. They don't want me to talk any more about it. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay.
But you're already plugged in, I think. So wonderful. Well, wow, this is pretty awesome, Lisa. This is great to hear.
Thanks.
So Lisa, all I was getting was, the minute you brought it up, is I saw all the energetics of the beings, and they're all really ready to go.
Yes.
Yep, that's what I got too. It was time.
It's
Yes, and they just need the help. Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it'll happen, because that would be a whole nother level, and I'd be pretty honored to be able to come and do that.
Yes, and once it happens, and you get it, because doing it is going to be an initiation for them, for you to do it, and then it'll be an opportunity where you could be able to do more, possibly. But I guess one step at a time, one thing at a time. So wow, sounds like what an opportunity, an honor, and a privilege to do it, and a gift to everyone, yourself and all the beings, the land, the building, all of it. So, in the tribe.
So
Wow.
Jeff, is there anything with what's transpired after the session, and then of course the Heavens Cross, is there anything that my guides want me to be aware of, or I know so much is going on internally, but it's like I couldn't put it into words, or
I'm laughing because they're very pleased right now. They said you're already getting all the things that you're doing it. Just keep doing it. They don't want to. Just keep the process. Anything, I don't want to interfere with the process that's going. So no, you're right on track. In time, if there's something more, we can talk. At some later point in a few weeks. But no, you're plugged in and doing well. You're doing everything you should be doing.
thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, Brook joins us. So Brook, do you have anything to share? Any questions? Anything at all? What do you want to talk about? That's why we want to open these forums up for all of us to talk about the things that we want to talk about. So what do you have?
Well, let me start out with Lisa. As soon as I signed on, you said, well, we'll have to talk to Brook about, because he used to work there. And so I said, okay, what could she be talking about? And then after I listened, I gathered you're working with Connie and some of those in the building, probably. You might refer to the office building I used to work in. Remember, we talked about that when you were still in Idaho a number of years ago. And I asked if you might be able to come and do that for us. And you offered then, yes, you would. And so I had talked to the chairman of the commission back then and asked him if we could do a clearing and a blessing of the building, because we were under new construction and cleaning out the old and building in new. And I said, I have somebody that's willing to come and do that with us and for us. And he said, well, let me look into it. And he did bring in the, I think they were the Shaker Church, and they did it twice for us. And both times they did guide people out of the building and said it's time to move on. And so there was some of that happening even back then. And I remember him also saying, just have the employees now not keep talking about it, because the more they talk about it, the more they invite them back in.
Yeah.
And so we tried to get them to not talk about it, but people are people, they'll feel it and sense it, they'll hear it. And it's stuff that I heard when I was there, or I felt when I was there. And then after the clearing, things did get much better. And it's interesting because, I lived up in Ruidoso and had the house there that Jeff knew about that was very well lived in with us. And they let it not be known they were there with us. We heard them all the time. And they walked down the hall, they walked in the ceiling, and they banged on the walls. And I would just ask them to be quiet because I didn't mind them being there, but I'd like to sleep at night. So then they'd quiet down. And then it was good. And now where I'm at in El Paso working, I'll be there at 8 o'clock or so at night, and I'll hear the building making all kinds of noise. And it's like there's people down the hall. I said, okay, they're still here too. And so it is good that you're plugging in again and still plugged in, and hopefully they'll allow you to help them with that clearing. And like you said, it's much needed, because that whole area up in Colville, Espelum was a traversing area from the east to the west. And as people passed away, they just left them there, or they buried them along the way and things like that. So yeah, they're still around. So, but that's where I kind of walked in on the call. So, well, what's been on my mind lately, Jeff, and everybody on the call, is it's been about 10 years that I've met some of you, Lisa, Jeff, Pat. I hadn't met Paul or Susan or Tonya back about 10 years ago when you had one of the first sessions up at, it was at Whitefish. And we came out from Electric City for that. And that was, I believe, the first time we had one of the weekend transformation sessions. So you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's where it was. And I say we, because Angie and I got there late and it already began. And so I'm thinking 10 years ago, and if you all think back 10 years ago, where were you? Because I knew I was opening up and finding out more about who I am and who I was, and coming into being, and come fast forward 10 years from there to now, and where I'm at now, and where on my journey, and how much further I've come. And I still think at times a lot is I'm coming into this more awareness, of course, as we all are, but am I still, how do I want to word it? Lack of better ways, it's kind of like finding out why I'm here and what I'm yet to learn and keep learning, because I'm here to learn things, and I keep thinking that way because I've come so far, and that's what made me think about 10 years ago and all the transformation since then. And as you guys all think back 10 years ago to now, how much you've all progressed into our growth and who we are, getting to know who we are in the things that we do. And yet, how much more? because people have passed around me, and every time somebody passes, I don't necessarily get sad anymore. It's like, I really hope they got what they're supposed to get.
Yeah.
And they're leaving with more learning that they were supposed to learn, why they were here, that they can move on. So I've been processing a lot of that and things. And of course, where I'm at now, how I speak now, I'm speaking to the people in my office and those around me in the same way, which I probably would have never done 10 years ago. Just to make them more aware of things and who they are and things and why they're here and experiencing some of the things that are experiencing. It's not just because it's for struggles, it's for learning and progressing from there. So that's what's been on my mind in the last little while. So I wanted to really get on the call tonight. I'm sorry I got on a little late, but we're in Dallas this weekend and was with a mother-in-law who's 93, and we just brought her to a Friday night Good Friday service. So it's interesting to be part of that too. So, but no real other anything else. And Jeff, I don't know if there's anything else that coming in after me sharing that and where I'm at and what I might need to know what they might be saying to you for me tonight. I appreciate if there was anything you could share.
Yeah, actually there is. As you were talking, stuff was coming through and I just wanted to just be silent to hear what you had to say. One of the things they said, and this is for everyone, and this is something that my guys have said for years, and it's really true, because of the accelerated times, they've told me, because the more we grow, the more we can grow, and the faster we grow, and we then start meeting challenges at a faster rate, and it can make us feel like sometimes that, boy, we're kind of going backwards, or maybe we're not making progress. When it's just absolutely the opposite. My guides have said, do you realize what you've done in this lifetime is more than you've done in the last 10? And I'm sharing this with the whole group. They just shared this with everyone. What we have done, and I'll just say, let's just say the last 10 years, let's just use your number, has been more than we, in most of, and they told me, I'm getting like 3 to 5 lifetimes for everybody here. With just the accelerated nature, and it's happening at so many levels of our being that we're not even aware of. The wondrous things, the releasing, the new connections are just incredibly, we're moving at a just incredible speed now that we couldn't have moved before, and we can't see it ourselves because we don't always see things accurately as they do. They can really see the acceleration. I think I've shared this with you before. One time I said, I'm not moving very fast. I want to move faster. And my guide showed me in that dream, and I think I've shared this before, I was moving on this road that's somewhat like a little, like black ice on it. And I'm moving it in real life. If I were driving this road this fast, my car would have gone off the road, but I'm tracking the road and I'm going really fast. And the point they were trying to make was that, we're going much faster than we think, and we just can't see it ourselves. And they wanted me to share that with all of you, that's true of everyone here on this call. This is so much is happening. And to ask you, what do you have to do? Boy, they wanted me to keep it. There's lots of things you're to be doing, and you are doing. You have some tribe work that's coming that you're doing, and some more that you're going to be doing, specifically not only with the tribe you're with, but the Alaskan. Up in Alaska, you have some unfoldment coming. They don't want me to talk about it, but some unfoldment coming in the short term, and in a little bit longer term. Let's say longer term in the next, let's go 6 months out to 3 years. You've got some new phases of things coming in, and that's all they want me to tell you about it. That's the extent of it, because if any more, I'll short circuit the whole thing. And I do know what it is, but I for once in my life, I'm keeping my mouth shut. I'm going, my guides, that's one of my lessons, by the way, just so everybody knows. They'll tell me things, and they're going to see if I'm going to blab. So my job is to not blab. So as much as I want to, in my heart, I want to share it with you because it's so exciting and wonderful, but you'll find out it's coming. But anyway, that's what you're doing. What you're doing now, ostensibly the work you're doing in your paid job is as much spiritual, as you know, as it is just doing the work that the tribe has you doing. And your presence there as a channel is so powerful. The more open you allow yourself to be, it's that thing they teach in kindergarten, Bible study, let go and let God. And that's really what's happening with you. So just continue to let yourself be guided. Things are coming up at many different levels. And your learning is going to be coming in as you need to. Just keep doing, as we said before, what you're doing. But the one thing your high self just told me just like seconds ago, I don't exactly know what he means. Maybe you will know what he means. Maybe others here on the call will know. He wants you to seek it. This might be the wrong word. Continue to seek, and even more eagerly than you are now, whatever that means. Maybe that what he's talking about. Your high self he's smiling, and that's all he's telling me. So that's all I can convey, is because so if anyone else has something to share, that's it. But you have lots more to do and a lot more to learn, and it's coming in, and you're not blocking it, you're flowing with it. Occasionally, as we all do, we occasionally have days where I'll say, we kind of slow it down a little bit. We're not ready for anything, but that's just short-lived, and you move on. And so all I'm going to say, this is me speaking, these are my words. Well, actually, it's their words too. All is well. Keep doing what you're doing. So
Well,
does anyone
I
else?
appreciate
Sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I don't know if anybody wants to add anything in before I go on. Susan, you have anything?
No.
Paula, you're
Yeah, go, Paula.
Since I've met you, Brooke, I just see the Alaska really jumps out at me, as you've got so much there of value for that group. So that's what I see for you, as something in the Alaska group.
yeah.
That's
How
really
about you,
true.
Pat? Anything you want to share?
I would concur with Paula very much. Ever since you first brought it up some months ago, it's like, yes,
Yeah.
when he's ready to make that move, that's really huge.
Yeah.
And then Lisa.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm getting, of course, Alaska's jumping out, but the most important thing, Brooke, is for you to keep diving deeper into yourself, to know all that you are. That's why you're here.
Yeah.
And to enjoy that journey.
Yeah, appreciate that, Lisa. Tonya, anything?
No, I don't really have anything specifically to add to yours, Brooke. I was considering your question, where was everybody 10 years ago? And I'm new into this. I'm pretty brand new. And so I was literally thinking about it. And yeah, 10 years ago, I had no idea that anything within this realm existed. So I'm learning, but thank you for sharing.
Yeah, because it's interesting because I worked really hard earlier this evening to make a flight up to Alaska next week. I'm actually going to a tribal leaders conference for our area, for our region. And I almost didn't go, but then I kept thinking, I gotta go. And so my boss doesn't know for sure already that I booked a ticket, but I'll be leaving Monday night. And here I'm in Dallas. And so I'll be up there for a couple days to participate in the tribal leaders conference right there in Bethel. And that'll be with, it'll be hard until I get there, how many will attend, but probably 50 to 100 people will probably attend.
Wow.
It'll be interesting because I'm so far out of the region, out of the state, that I had to work extra hard to get there. And at first I thought it wasn't going to work out, then today it just all fell into place. And so it'll be interesting to be around other tribal leaders and probably some elders from our region, not just tribal leaders. And I think that's key because I've been away for a while, and as shared when we were in Wallace, that you know, I'm being called to do some of that in that direction. And as being the president of our tribe in the last few months, some of the new staff that are coming on and in my active role that I've taken with the management, I said, I am not like the past president. And they laughed and said, for sure you're not. They could definitely feel and see the difference. And they appreciate the openness and the communication and the sharing and the just being open about everything. So it's been a good process for the last couple of months, even though there's been a little struggle with the past president, which is interesting. I'm having another comment about that, because they were so hard, so strong, so under your thumb, really wanting to know what was happening all the time. I said, well, that's okay. That was their style. I don't have that. You know, we're here for a reason. You're there for a reason, and you'll do what you need to get done. And I'll just make sure I help you along the way. And then if you do fall short, yes, I'll do a little more of that, but it's not necessary at this point. We all know why we're here and what we have to do for the tribe. And so the process has been so different too. And they've actually appreciated that from the management side, that allowing them to do what they were brought on to do. I do have a side comment though, and this is kind of types to all of you because you're all part of me and I'm part of you, is my sister called a few weeks back and just out of the blue, and she said, this isn't business, it's personal. I said, oh, what's up? She said, how did you know who to connect with to do what you're doing? You know, how did I find Lisa? How did I find Jeff? How did I find Pat? How did I find you? And you helped me along my journey in this spiritual growth pattern and path. Because she's always told me, since I've been telling her this for the last 10 years, I don't know. You just keep doing what you're doing if it works for you. Well, now she's interested in exploring it. And she wanted to make contact with certain people to help her get a little more exposure to explore this side of her too, that she's held so tightly, tempered down. I think it's wanting to come up, and she's realizing that. And so I said, you know, I can get you in touch with Jeff or Lisa one of these days when you're ready for that. But I have another person that might help you with some other areas. And I sent her information for Linda, who does body and emotional code work, because there's some things in her own physical side that she's got to find out about and release, because there are blockages within her, including her heart and stuff. And I said, maybe just start with Lisa first. Linda first, and then we'll see where that goes after that. So it's interesting, after all these years, she's finally come to me from a very personal, spiritual sense of who we are, and saying, okay, I think I'm ready, but I want to start slow. We all started slow at one point. And so just kind of share that.
Well, that's wonderful.
It's just great to see that.
Brook,
Yeah.
when you were talking, I'm getting the whale coming through, and here the whale is known as a guardian. They're one of the guardians that were first to come to Earth, and my heart's going so fast.
Everybody froze.
Yeah, it's the guardians will be with you. I don't know if you're going where there's water when you go to Alaska, or if you're going inland, but the guardians will be with you.
Well, there'll be water, but it'll be frozen.
Well, they're down here now, but they'll be on their way back up.
Oh, and I am going to Hawaii in a month, so.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful.
Maybe.
Well, yeah, you have to say something when you get here.
Sounds good.
Maybe you can connect.
Okay, well, that's all I had, Jeff. Did anything else come in?
No, I think everyone shared. I think I'm getting that you've gotten what you needed to get, and the rest just keeps pouring in for you. It's wonderful. I think you're on track. You're doing what you need to do. I'd be curious to hear more after a few, after things happen, to see what, after you fly up there, and next month to see what the updates are.
Sounds great.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tonya, do you have anything to share? Anything to ask? Anything? What do you want to talk about?
Oh, I have so many questions.
Well, you have a great group here to ask.
Yeah, and I kind of almost don't even know where to start, but I've been looking forward to this ever since I joined late last time, but ever since the last one, I've been looking forward to this. So yeah, it's been kind of a weird week a little bit. So I met some of you guys last time, but anybody who doesn't know, I'm a therapist, I'm a counselor. And recently in this last week, I've had 3 people. One person reached out, I actually hadn't talked to in a couple of years, reached out, but all 3 people have said essentially the same thing to me this week, that how big of a difference I've made in their lives. And, they were at their lowest point, or like I just really helped them through a hard time, which was nice to hear, because sometimes I wonder, like, how much of a difference am I making? What am I doing for people? But it was just kind of weird that all of those happened like right in a week. But it's just, things have felt kind of off and weird lately. And like I was sharing last time, I'm classically trained therapist by moving more toward, the holistic. I got my sound bowls. I've done a couple sound showers with people individually, one-on-one, and they went very well. And so I'm kind of moving more into this realm and aspect, and that's where I'm saying, like, I'm more newer. I don't understand or don't know a lot of the things, that people are sharing. I'm trying to learn right now. Mm-hmm. I did have a question. You were talking about spirit guides last time, and I was wondering, are they usually ancestors or people who have passed on in your life, or like in some way associated with you? Is that generally what they are, or is it something different?
It can be. It can be all kinds. Some of my guides, I'll speak for myself, and others can talk to this too. He's one of my guides, my earlier guides. His name was William. He had been on Earth. I think I knew him. We're good friends in between lives. We spent a lot of time together. And he's been just this wonderful guide. He was almost like a human being who without a body. He never lost his perspective of what it was like to be on Earth, which was a real help for me for many, many, many years. But I also have other guides. I have some biblical ones. I sometimes joke, if I haven't met everyone in the Old Testament, it's close. For whatever reason, I have Old Testament connections. So it just depends on us and our connections and what we need, who it's going to be. But can it be ancestors? Absolutely. It can be angels, archangels. It can be biblical. It can be Hindu. It can be other dimensions. It can be anything at all. But right now, you're going through a period, and I'm going to be quiet here in just a second. As you have talked about, you said you're relatively new to this. There's a whole bunch of stuff being cleared out and new connections being made. You're kind of in a transitional period that is happening in such a way that you can continue to operate in your normal life, because that's important, but also bring in the new and have it be gentle and not too abrupt, because if it's too fast, we can't handle it. Psychologically, these grounding points get removed, new ones get made, and if we're not ready for it, that reintegration process is going to be happening all the time. Can be a little too dramatic. Sometimes that's good. Some people need that, but what you need is this gentle transition, at least right now, that's happening. So that's what I'm seeing. And I'd like to let anyone else jump in that has something to share, because I think others probably do here. So does anyone have anything to share with Tonya?
Tonya, what I see is I'm a master Reiki healer, and teacher. And I don't know if you do Reiki or some other modality where you can do self work on yourself to where you just get in touch with how it feels to have that energy flowing through you and going out, and keep the flow going really nice and smooth, and then always keep yourself well grounded. It really feels beautiful when a person, there's many modalities, of course, to do that. Doesn't have to be Reiki. And there was something else too. I may think of it later, but yeah, if you can just do those wonderful gifts to yourself, and also always reassure, whether we call it the little child or the ego or whatever, I'm here for you. We're doing this journey together. Don't be afraid, because we're making one step at a time. And even though things are, like Jeff said earlier, very fast now, we sometimes we're aware of that and sometimes we aren't, but that little child can really, you can just see it. It needs to be picked up and held.
Yes.
And just spoken to and loved. So that's what I have to share for you.
Yeah, thank you,
Pat?
Pat. I actually did get trained in Reiki last year. So I have been trained in it. I have done some Reiki, and actually your last comment kind of really resonates, because I do that internal family systems. I do that child work with other people. Excuse me, I have a cold. I'm constantly doing this stuff with other people, but I feel like I do need that reminder every once in a while, like, yes, I actually have to do the work too. So thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and one thing I was supposed to share. It's actually from the universe, as a capital U universe, the consciousness of the universe. You know, you're having the feedback that you had from people to say, hey, you're making a difference. The universe wants you to know that how valued you are. I mean, sometimes we can't realize how loved and valued we are, just from, we call it the capital D divine, or from, you know, from the higher God, from our high self, or our, just to know that all the support we're getting and what a difference we make, and the universe, that really came through for you. The universe really wants you to know, and your higher guides, your guides do too. You have a number of them. Just the progress that you're making, and that it is happening at the appropriate pace. So let's put it that way. I don't know if it seems slow to you. My sense is that it kind of may seem like it's not happening quite as fast, perhaps, as you would want it, or you're not getting all the stuff, you know, there's pieces missing or whatever, but it's coming in at the rate that it needs to come in, at least right now. And it is going to accelerate. I think we talked about that before, but that is going to continue to happen. So anyway, that's what I didn't mean to cut anybody else off. Does anyone else have anything to share?
Yeah, I would say I felt that your heart, when you said that about the people, I saw your heart was you're very giving, and I kept hearing, trust your heart, not your head.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That would make sense.
Go with your heart.
Tonya, I would, what I'm getting for you is, you know, it's hard to remember what it's like to be new in this, because it was so long for me. And I've been working with people for over 22 years. And I know that in the beginning, it was very easy to get caught up into everybody else's stuff and trying to fix and solve and all of that. And the most important thing is to take care of yourself, because if you're not growing, expanding, and healing, you really can't assist people at higher and higher levels as you go. And so it can also be a distraction. Remember that too, that it's important to have that balance. The other thing I'm getting is, you know, there's so many ways to do the path, and it can be very overwhelming with all the stuff that everybody's done. And what I'm getting for you is to just really tune into your own intuition and follow that guidance. It's about really following your own journey, your path, and you will be guided if you listen and you pay attention to that intuition. You will be guided step by step to what you need, whether it's a person, whether it's a book, a class, but follow the intuition, really listen to it. Again, it's a feeling, it's not mental. And so what I get for you is you spend a lot of time in your mental processor. So it's about listening intuitively with your whole being and allowing yourself to be guided. It's really about allowing everything to come to you, not trying to go out and grab and get everything and I got to know it, learn it. No, you don't. Allow it to come to you. That's the easier path. Most of us did the harder path, but that's the easier path of just really listening to your intuition, and you will be guided. And again, that's a process of trust as well, and trusting yourself. And I know that you can do that. So it's about taking it day by day, step by step, because otherwise you get too overwhelmed. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, and that actually also makes sense because I've noticed, probably more so in the last year, but I've noticed like things do seem to come in at a certain time where it's like I'll hear them from more than one source or something like that. And somebody else had told me if you hear it from more than one source, then you need to jump on it and do it, you know. And so that's kind of part of what sparked, you know, some of this going on and just different things. No, I think you all are very, very on tune. I do have one more question, if that's okay, that I was hoping somebody can help me just make sense of a little bit. I don't want to take up too much time, but I shared last time, so I'll see orbs, like sometimes they're white balls of light or sometimes they're dark, kind of sense things. I don't know if it's a spirit or, but I could just kind of sense things. So I do that a little bit, but about 2 weeks ago or a couple of weeks ago, I was sitting with a client, and in the room, the best I could describe it would be like wavy black smoke, but it looked like a torso. So it was like up in the air, a couple feet, like a torso if somebody was standing there. And I've never seen an apparition before. I've never seen like spirits or anything like that. And so I was just wondering if anybody could make sense of that, if that's maybe what was going on or what that could have been.
Well, I can see that it was there, and I'm supposed to actually let someone else talk. I'm not sure who it is, but it's not for me to speak to this, at least initially. Does anyone have anything to share?
I would say it definitely is a spirit being entity. I would ask you, Tonya, how did it feel to you?
Not frightening or scary or anything like that. A little bit more neutral, or like the person who I was sitting with had a parent who passed away, and it kind of almost felt like
Yeah, that's what it
that.
was.
Yep, you got it.
Okay.
That's it. Exactly. Yeah. And that's a good thing when they show up like that. That's a positive indicator that, you know, that we're doing and being the way we need to do and be, so that the process can happen. They don't just show up for no reason at all. Yeah. And I'm supposed to share something that came out once, and I think this is applicable to you, Tonya. Some years ago, I used to work for it was actually a golf course, excuse me, but they had a, excuse me, they had a building place, and I was a building construction administrator. I'd actually help people configure their cabins, which was kind of neat, but lots and lots of moving parts, all kinds of detail. And I'm good at detail, but when you have 7 to 12 builds and there's, you know, dozens and dozens of details per build, it was pretty challenging even when I'm used to dealing with that. And so I share that. So one day I was walking into my living room, and I have a guide. And his name is Obadiah from the Bible, the Obadiah from the Bible, and he and Moses, for whatever reason, and he's one of my guides too, was walking behind my couch, and they do this to me, and I'm sure others have had this experience. The minute I saw them for like 2 seconds, and the minute they saw that I saw them, they made themselves transparent. I couldn't see them anymore. And I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think anything happened. And anyway, long story short, that night I went to bed, and I initially kind of slept like a half hour, and then the rest of the night I was awake, and I was thinking, oh man, this is gonna be a long day at work. But it wasn't. And to my surprise, all of a sudden, my memory ability went from here to here, jumped up, you know, a few notches, amazingly so. And so I became aware that they showed up, and there was probably many other reasons why they showed up, but they showed up energetically to help me so that I could do my regular work job and still continue doing my spiritual path. And why I mention all of this, my guides have told me, and my friend Kay, who Pat knows, and who's incredibly powerful, and I'm just going to leave it at that. She's exceptionally gifted. She has reminded me, when they show up, it doesn't matter if it's an angel, a being, there's obviously it's going to be perhaps if we're working with someone, it can be for their benefit, but it's also for our benefit. They're not there just to hang out. They're there because they have been directed from their higher guidance to be there for our benefit. And I would share that with you. That they would share that with you. They want you to know that. So that's why I shared that that experience that I had. So as these things happen, it's not only for the benefit of whoever you might be working with, but it's also for our benefit. Energetically, they become a conduit for us, so we can receive just as we're a conduit for others as well. Just as everyone here in this Zoom call here, we're all channeling for each other. So that's what I have to share. Does anyone else have anything more to share? Okay. Tonya, do you have anything more? Do you want to ask or share or anything?
Oh, I have lots more, but maybe I'll save it till next time.
All right. Well, thank you. And oh, what a blessing it is to have you with us. We always love to have someone, you know, just having you relatively new and just sharing who you are and with us. And it's a blessing I know at least it's a blessing for me, and I'm sure it is for everyone feels the same way. Marci, do you have anything to share, to ask? What do you want to talk about?
Oh boy. Well, pretty high energy today. Non-functional, I'd say. Just vibrating, vibrating, a lot going on in the heart. The last, kind of interesting, like 3 people in my family or close to me having pretty serious health stuff. You know of one of them already. So that's been interesting to see that I'm not really drawn in, but to be, kind of trying to sort it out of where my place is in all of this.
Where do you
Blocking
think
the grid.
what do you think your place is on this? Your high self asked me to ask you that.
Well, in one of the instances, it was just to kind of step back from it and let the other person go through it on their own completely. Mm-hmm. Just very minimal input. On the other one, it's been the one that you know about, more energetic, I don't know if you'd call it holding, not holding space, but I've been working a lot with the angels. So bringing that frequency into that scenario for the highest good. And then with the third one, it's been more of a neutral thing on that one too. It's more of to not get sucked into being the fixer, and I think that can be, there's probably identity connected with it and patterns and whatnot. So to not get pulled in to that frequency.
Yeah, and your high self and actually your guides and the angels that you're working with are very pleased that you said that, because as we all do, we all have these connections with these people, and when we allow ourselves to just be guided, and sometimes just being a clear channel. And when you said holding space, and angels will have you do that a lot. They will have you do that thing so that this, the higher power can come through for the other person through us as channels, and that's happening. And the divine, your guides, the angels and your high self want you to know that you're doing that just by being who you are, and the other people not even knowing, well, a couple of them know, but just being who you are and being that channel, you're allowing yourself to bring through the energies through your connection with them that can help them. And that is such a big blessing beyond definitely beyond what they know, and to a great degree beyond what you're aware of is coming through. I mean, a lot more than what you know is happening. So that's, they're very pleased. Anyone have anything to add, to share? Okay.
The other thing is just walking the land and working with the grid, the ocean, the river. I think the energies just keep continuing to accelerate, and this last, I don't know how long, a couple weeks or so, maybe more, it's been a little more challenging to focus because the energies are coming through so fast.
Yeah.
Boy, that's for certain. I don't know if everyone else is noticing that. It has just been tumultuous. And every time I say that, I mean, I say that last time before, and just when I think it couldn't go any faster, it does. It gets, it steps up the frequency and the intensity. And yet that's what we need. That's what we're ready for. That's why it's happening. So, and your connection with the land is clearly important. And what your being there is a very blessing, and allowing things to happen that need to happen. So, wow, that's all I'm going to say. Wow. Susan, you were shaking your head. Is anything?
No, I'm so grateful to be listening to all of you, because with all of the, I get different perspectives and I learn so much from being here. So thank you all. One question I do have is that I've run into a number of people they're so stuck, and I keep thinking, maybe breath work would help you. And I'm wondering if that's something that would be something for me to be able to do, because I've had so much done for myself before that got me through even brainwashing. That if it's something that would be really helpful for me to be doing for other people.
I got yes when you said it.
Okay.
Your high self and your guidance, and it will help them, because it's something that they can do. They don't even have to know what's happening, and it will be, fully know what's happening, and it can open them up to the next step for them.
Yeah, well, I would have to go and do some training with that, and I've just been really drawn to it lately because I know what it has done for me, and I'm seeing people thinking, wow, that would really help you.
Yes. The
Okay.
breath, prana, the energy of, yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Wow. This has been, I'm going to use the word vibrant tonight. That's what it feels like. Vibrant energies coming from everybody, all this stuff happening. It's awesome and wonderful. Wow. And yet it can be, at the same time, it can be so powerful and vibrant, and so much can be happening at the inner level. And some of it manifests in our lives in different ways. And yet, at the same time, I'll speak for myself, my life can seem almost mundane. At the same time, it's that dichotomy of it's, simultaneously tremendous things happening, enormous growth, transformation, expansion. At the same time, from the, if someone who doesn't know any of this stuff, they can look at my life and say, well, you're living a pretty ordinary life there. So, and I think that's true of people on the spiritual path oftentimes. It looks like not much is happening, and yet everything is happening. So, wow. Just thank you all for sharing. I don't have much more to share other than I had the same experience where we talked initially. I was like, what are we going to talk about tonight? And for those who missed the opening comments, the only thing I got to mention, and this was from Jesus as the Christ, he said to remember the ascension energies. We're in the period time of ascension, and these energies are powerful. If you're called and connect with them, these energies can, beyond just pure ascension, it can help be transformational. These energies can really accelerate the transformational processes that we're all in, to help us move to the next step or steps that we're ready to do. And that was the only thing that I had to mention. So and it's a pretty awesome thing. But other than that, I didn't have any subject matter. Just, I just open it up and just to see what we all had to share. And boy, did everyone have things to share. So I guess before we close, I just want to go around. Does anyone have any final thoughts, closing comments before we call it an evening? So I'm going to start with Susan again. I'll just start there. And do you have anything to share? Anything?
Just a lot of gratitude. Just a reminder that there are hordes of angels hanging out, and they are there. And I know one of the ways that I met some of my angels was through automatic writing, and all of a sudden a name would show up, and some advice would show up. So, and, when Tonya was talking about angels, Tonya, that was one way that I met some of my angels, and they have some amazing advice.
They do, and some interesting. Angels have perspectives that I don't know that are unique to angels. I'm just going to say it that way.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. I can really confirm that. Boy, they certainly do. Wow, boy, I was really hit with that. Boy, that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. I just got a wave of stuff coming in on that, so I'm gonna have to process that for a while. Whew. Thank you.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. Paula, do you have any last thoughts, comments, anything at all? Just anything before we close?
Just what a blessing this call is. I so look forward to this every month, to each and every one that joins us. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Boy. Okay. Wow. Boy, I'm still boy. Woo. Pat, do you have anything?
I just love you guys so much. It's so cool to see everybody once a month like this. And John's down on the couch. He's grooving on it too. So we both send our love and our regards and our thank yous.
Well, thank you. And why? And just, again, everyone. Lisa, anything at all?
I'm just feeling so much energy right now, just pouring in.
I know.
It's it's a lot. It's interesting that you brought up Yeshua the Christ, because I've been feeling him coming in quite a bit, and it's real interesting because there is a movie out called The Jesus Revolution. And when I see those things kind of coming into the collective, it's like, okay, it's a way for that energy to start to come in, maybe not in the way that we know it, but it's a way in. and
Yes.
it's a opening. And so I just, I'm always just fascinated with what's happening out in the world and what's starting to flood in and shift and change. And that's pretty cool.
It is, and just yeah, I'm glad you said the world. And the only thing they want to just keep it brief, not to bring in any of that stuff, but just to say that what's happening out there needs to happen for things to move on. It has to disintegrate for the new to come in, and
Yeah.
just we're not to get caught up in it. So thank you for reminding me of it. The way it coming in, it comes in these unique ways that we don't realize at the time, and then later we can see it far more clearly than we did at the time. So. Thank you for bringing that up. Thank you. Brooke, any last thoughts, comments, anything at all?
Yeah, I think I have a couple. I really appreciate the input that everybody put in tonight also. And Tonya, when you were talking and asking questions, Paula talking about feeling it in the chest, and Lisa talking about that intuition, start to trust that, because being a therapist, you do tend to work up here. When you work more with everything of what we are and who we are, you're going to feel it throughout your whole body. At least I do. And I know something's going on just by what I'm feeling, like a lot of times in my chest. And I'll stop somebody and say, okay, what's going on in your heart right now?
Mm-hmm.
And it just throws them off and them onto where they should be, instead of all this stuff that they're talking about. What are you really feeling? And then go with it, because there's a reason you're feeling it. In my case, you're feeling it. You're not just thinking, well, what could they be going through? What's going on? But I'm feeling it. And then I address the feeling. And what comes out in them is the real stuff. And then we get down to why they're really in my office, or why I'm talking with them. And so as a therapist, as was said, get away from here, move into here, and it'll be so much more impactful and effective with that communication and touching with that person who you're working with. And of course, once you really address what's going on in here, they always seem to make the connection right away and say, wow, okay, must be safe to talk about it because he brought it up. And then you go from there. So, and the intuition, you've got to start trusting it, because I've had staff ask me questions in staff meetings, and I'll say, what's your intuition saying? Then they'll go on, and I said, no, what's your intuition saying? And then they'll say, okay, and they'll say, and I said, do it. Go with what you're feeling, and don't be thinking about, do it. And so they're getting used to that too, and getting them to trust what's going on in here too. And that's what I gathered from tonight, and I just want to share that as my closing comments.
Thank you, Brooke. Wow. The heart knows all. It
Yeah.
does. It does. The heart knows all, and it bypasses the ego, it bypasses the mind, and transformation happens when we operate from the heart. And it happens not only for us, but when we speak from the heart, as you say, as it happens in your staff meeting, it really makes a difference for others, and that opens them up to do things they wouldn't otherwise have been able to do, in any other way. Because the head, what is it? Joseph Campbell used to say he used to say, this thing up here thinks it's running the show. What its job is to be in service to the greater being. Our mind is to be in service to, you could say, to the heart, but in that regard, it's not to run the show, because when it does, things don't work well. So,
and then the big thing is, as any of us are doing, and we're aware, Tonya, as you're aware too, is once you've made that connection and you're done, make sure you cut that connection, because you don't need to carry their stuff with you.
That's right.
That time. Say, I love you, I'm sending you on, and I am now disconnecting. Yep. And we learned a lot of that, Lisa, in your classes. Let's do stuff to break that connection and protect yourself too. So, and step away from it.
Yep.
I love you guys.
Thank you. And Tonya, do you have anything, any last thoughts, anything to share, anything at all right now? Of course, we'll be here next month, so we can talk again then.
Right. No, Brooke, everything that you were just saying, I totally agree with. Can I ask what is your profession? What do you do?
See, what do I not do?
Oh, that's a hard question.
My profession, I guess, is people. I've worked in tribal housing, in Indian housing with tribes and tribal people all my professional career, of course, being Native American myself. And I've gotten away from specifically housing, but dealing with staff overall with a pueblo in El Paso. But I've been around the Northwest for 24 years before coming down here to New Mexico and Texas. And so that's my profession, but then also the tribal council business is part of who I am. And that's what I bring in now is I'm expanding beyond just the work, going into a tribal leadership role, which I've had before in my past. And I know I've had it in other times too, because as we talk about guides and Jeff has seen them, of course, and I've only had a picture of one of them really clear because I have a drawing of it from having one drawn when I was speaking to a person that could do that. And I shared it with Jeff and I said, Jeff, have you seen him? And he said, yeah, he's been with you a number of times. And so he's on my wall in our sunrooms. But that's kind of what I do, is dealing with people at a different level.
I have to share something from the divine. When she asked that question, and when you were talking, when you are many things, this is from the divine, and is yes, what is it you are? You are a spiritual beacon, and boy, I'm just seeing it, boy, and they're showing, he's divine showing me, and channel. That is who you are, and all the other things come from that. And whatever your job title is really kind of almost secondary to what you do, and you already know that. So,
and I really appreciate you saying that, Jeff, because that's kind of what I get at. I guess I was saying this because I know whatever I'm saying is not coming from me anymore. It seems to, as long as I let it come through me, and I'm just that vessel to help somebody along.
Wow, boy. My goodness, I'm going to be having a problem sleeping tonight. Okay. Well, thank you, Tonya. Is there anything else before we move on to Marci?
No, just thank you guys for all the insights. I really enjoyed this. Like I said, I was really looking forward to this all month. So I appreciate, everything that everybody has to share and hearing others' insights. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. And to everyone. Marci, any last thoughts, comments, anything at all before we close?
Just appreciate our group being together. It's always just such a joy, and send blessings to all of you. Just blessings, blessings, blessings.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, I just think that's about all. I don't have anything else to share. Just keep shining the light, just because that's just what transforms the world. Just being, beacons of light, anchors of light, and channels of light, and just being who you are and living from your heart. And that's all we can do. And and you probably all already noticed when I post this stuff out, I'm just putting less and less text. There's nothing to say. We're going to go back, and if we'll watch the video again, I'll put something out there. We'll talk about who was here. But other than that, I've just, let's just let the video, just let our meeting be what it is. And that's what it's about. So blessings to all of you. Thank you all for being here. We're just, all of you are channels of light for everyone else. So thank you. Blessings to you all. And until next time, we'll see you then next month.
Thank you.
Love to you all.
Thank you, Jeff.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Aloha.
Bye.
Good to see
Bye.
everybody.